My name is Dr. Abdulhakeem, Ngulde. I'm a medical doctor by profession, and I'm a trainee psychiatrist, currently undergoing residency training. I'm a senior registrar. Drug abuse has a lot of effects, but for the purpose of this discussion, I would like to look at it from three perspectives: from biological perspective, psychological, and social. Because by categorizing them into these three angles, will actually bring out the major effects, and it will be glaring to our viewers. Biological effects of drug abuse are quite enormous, and when we say biological effects, we mean those undesirable effects that it has on the human body as a whole. And the human system, like we all know, is made up of different systems: the central nervous system, the respiratory system, the skin itself, and the endocrine system, the excretory system. Virtually all these systems are affected negatively by drug. When an individual indulges in the habit of taking psychoactive substance of whatever class, we have different classes of psychoactive drugs, it affects virtually all those systems I highlighted. Now, that's the biology. The biology means the system, the structure. Psychological effects include those untoward consequences that the drug will have on the psychological well-being of the individual, his memory, his interpersonal relationship, and his overall psychological well-being. And the social effect of drug, of course, we all know the untoward effect it has on an individual's finances. His sources of income will be completely affected. The individual's interpersonal relationship among his siblings, with his other family members like the parents, will be affected, and even with individuals not in the home front, in the community, and also the individual's performance in school will be seriously affected. In fact, in the long run, the individual will eventually get himself not going to school, or he will be expelled from school. Another social problem that we see commonly with drug problem is that of loss of job, and individual is likely to lose his or her job because of problem with drug. Drug addiction for an individual, for us to say an individual is to be tagged drug addict, even though professionally we tend not to use the word addict because of the derogatory tone it carries. If an individual is said to have drug addiction or drug problem, that individual has been using drug, and that drug he has become hooked on that drug problem. So a lot of factors can actually tilt an individual or make an individual to be a drug addict. And one of such factors that we commonly see is psychosocial stressors of life, financial hardship, peer pressure. That's what we call peer pressure, like among friends, influence of friends, and other individuals in the society can actually make an individual to start using drugs. We also have what we call genetic predisposition. When I say genetic predisposition, I mean an individual whose family members, somebody in the lineage, like the parents, the grandparents, if anybody among them has the genetic tendency to use drugs, alcohol, and so many other drugs, an individual down the lineage can also come down with such problem. It has a lot of problems. One of the implications is that of having problems with academics. Students, once if they go into use of drugs, they start drifting down the academic ladder. If an individual previously was performing exceptionally well in school, with drug use, that individual will certainly drop down in his academic ladder. And of course, apart from that, the youths. Now, if quite a number of people in the youthful category are using drugs, we have a high chance that at the end of the day, we will not have people that will take over from the elderly ones at the end of the day. So this is another major problem with using drugs. To reduce the demand of drugs, we can actually do that, following also from looking at this from 3 to 4 perspectives. We can reduce the demand at the level of government, at the level of the community and the society, at the level of the family, then at the individual level. But the most important one is the first one, that is at the level of government. When we say government is the government comprises of the executive, the legislative arm, and on the part of the legislative arm, the National Assembly can actually promulgate laws, very effective laws that can lead to reducing the availability of drugs in the society. And like stringent measures can be placed, very high taxation can be placed on drugs, that on the drugs and raw materials that you use in producing drugs. By so doing, it will go a long way in cutting down the availability and thereby reducing the use by individuals in the society. Also, government, on the part of the executive, we have the Federal Ministry of Health, we have the National Drug Law Enforcement Agencies. These are government parastatals that are vested with the responsibility of tackling drug use problem in the country. You can actually, like the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, we can sit down and look at the law establishing the agency, give it more powers to carry out surveillance on drugs that are coming into the country, and also empower the agency more through increased funding so that the problem of drug can actually be reduced to the barest minimum. On the part of government, like Federal Ministry of Health, we can come up with policies that will help in actually preventing drug use problem in the society. You can have agencies like Drug Bureau, Drug Prevention and Treatment Bureau, where you identify people with drug use problem and you appropriately refer them so that they will be treated. Once if we treat those people who actually have the drug problem, it's a cycle. Those ones that are having the problem are the ones who will eventually influence those who don't have the problem. By treating them, it will go a long way, actually preventing others from getting into them. Girls, just like their male counterparts, are not immune, or they are not protected from drug use problem. They can as well come down with problems related to drug. And in fact, the National Drug Survey that was done in the year 2019 showed that 1 in every 4 individuals in the country currently with drug use problem is a girl. What actually influenced girls to go into this drug problem are very glaring to everybody. They are not far-fetched. Number one problem is gender discrimination, parental preference. We all know that culturally in this part of the world, parents have this tendency to show preference to the male folk more than the women folk, and that will exert a lot of pressure on the girl child. The other things are forceful child marriages. Culturally, we all know how parents can influence or force marriage on young girls who are not even of age. This will make them go and start using drugs. The other thing is difficulty in academics. Girls who are having challenges in their school, friends can easily influence them and tell them to use drugs. That is the way out. The other problem we commonly see is it cuts across gender. Is that of peer pressure. Girls, just like boys too, friends can influence them. A girl who comes in contact with friends who are using drugs, she can easily be lured into using drugs, and that is another factor. Well, when we say the workplace, it's also a very large, thing. We have to actually understand what we mean by the workplace. The workplace, to a laborer who is working, in a building site, that's his workplace. Somebody who is a factory a laborer in a factory is also a workplace. For a military man, like military or gallant military officers who are currently at the war front, that's also a workplace for them. Now, using drug in the workplace is something that is also very common. A military personnel who has been in the bush, for example, such an individual has spent a very long period of time without having access to any of his family member, can go through a lot of stress, psychological stress, that can easily influence him to use drugs. The other thing is a laborer who is working on a building site. That individual, because of the hectic nature of his work, it's very easy for him to look for drugs to supplement his strength, his God-given strength. They may think they are actually using those drugs to help them in coping with their work, but it's a very wrong way of coping. It's what professionally we refer to as maladaptive way of coping. There are other scientifically encouraged way of coping with stress in your workplace. You can take a rest, you can take time off, you can meditate, you can eat healthy diet, you can engage yourself in exercise. If you do that, it will go a long way in helping you cope with the stress, not necessarily you using drug in your workplace. Government and non-governmental organizations can play a vital role in reshaping the lives of people who are affected by drug use problem. On the part of government also, psychiatric facilities and rehabilitation facilities are generally lacking in the country. Like in the Northeast, where we are currently, we have only one federal health institution, that's Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, where you have drug rehabilitation facility serving about 6 states, and even neighboring countries of Cameroon, Niger and Chad. There is a need for government to increase availability of health facilities. In fact, all federal health institutions should have a standalone or departments of drug addiction treatment and rehabilitation. This will go a long way in reducing the number of people who are currently afflicted with this problem. And at the family level, we want to call on families to increase the parenting. They need to make very effective their children's upbringing, and for individuals, they need to make up their minds to get over this problem. It's something that is surmountable. We have quite a number of individuals who have this drug problem, but they are finding it very difficult to come forward and seek help. We want to assure them that if they come forward and discuss with their families, discuss with experts, they can actually get over this problem.